Hi class 10. So today we'll be discussing about natural vegetation in India. So in the last class we discussed about soil resources in India. So this chapter is also a little bit similar to that chapter, and the only difference is that we'll be learning about forest and vegetation in this chapter while we were learning about soil in the other chapter. We'll also be learning about different kinds of forests, the same we learned like different kinds of soil. We'll again take a look at the syllabus. So these are the topics in green which are completed, and the topics in red are today's topics. So just previous class we completed soil resources, and now we'll be doing chapter number 6, which is natural vegetation, importance of forest, types of vegetation, tropical evergreen, tropical deciduous, tropical desert, littoral, and mountain. So we'll be discussing 5 types of forest. And what are we going to learn in these 5 types? We'll be learning its distribution and its relationship with the environment. And also another special topic of conservation of forest also we will be learning. The other set of syllabus you already know, which has already been completed. Okay, starting off with natural vegetation. So as I already always tell you, you can define it in your own way, but make sure that you don't alter the meaning. Any plant cover that has grown on its own without any human influence and has remained undisturbed for a long period of time to support a variety of animal life. So first thing is that it is a plant cover. Vegetation is always plants. Vegetation doesn't include animals. It's plant cover that has grown without human influence. So it's not some person or some human being who's gone and planted something which has become a forest. That has happened very rarely, but mostly what you call natural vegetation or a forest or a jungle is a plant cover that has grown on its own without human beings playing a part in it. And it has remained undisturbed. So one point is that it should be grown without human beings starting it or influencing it. The second part is that it should be remain undisturbed for a long period of time, for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. It has not been disturbed. So when that happens, a variety of animal life and other plant life also can exist in that habitat. So it creates a habitat, it creates an environment which supports a lot of plant and animal life. And there's a lot of healthy living that's happening within that environment. And that is when you call it natural vegetation. Okay, what about India? How is the present situation of natural vegetation in India? Natural vegetation in India refers to the forest cover present in India. There are 5 major types of forest which we'll be discussing. These are mainly dependent on variation in rainfall and relief and also temperature. So how do we divide these forests? There are some forests which have different kinds of trees. There are other forests which have other kinds of trees, and some forests which has a soil which is moist and clay, some forest which has dry soil, some forest the shape of the tree is different from the other. So how do we divide that and how do we classify that? Do we classify that based on anything else, or we classify that based on geographical or environmental factors like temperature, rainfall, and relief? We are going to classify the 5 types of forest, and the classification takes place based on temperature, rainfall, and relief. So places which has high temperature, places which has low temperature, high rainfall, low rainfall, high altitude, low altitude, all these will be factors which divide and differentiate forests. Example, a high temperature dry region will have a thorn forest, or a high relief region, high altitude region will have a montane forest or a mountain forest. So it can all be divided based on temperature, rainfall, and relief. Okay, this is the map of Madhya Pradesh. So why have I put Madhya Pradesh over here? Is there any reason? Yes, the reason is that in India, the state which has the maximum percentage of forest is Madhya Pradesh. So it has one fourth. You know that in 100, one fourth is 25 percentage. More than one fourth of Madhya Pradesh is covered with forest. 25.14 percentage. It is reducing every year. Maybe 10 years back or 15 years back, it would have been 28% or 30%. It is coming down, but still in India, Madhya Pradesh, which is the center or the heart of India, continues to be the most forest covered region in our country. So that's one thing which we should be aware of and we should know very well. that Madhya Pradesh still is the region with the most amount of forest cover. Okay. Sundarbans is also a very important forest that all of us need to know. And what is this Sundarbans? Sundarbans is a very world famous heritage site. It's classified by the UNESCO, which is under the European Union. They have classified it as World Heritage Site. So heritage is something we should take care of because it's so rare in the whole world, and that's why it is classified as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So this Sundarbans is actually a tidal forest or a littoral forest which is found in a huge area of almost 3,260 square kilometers, covering both West Bengal in India and Bangladesh, which is the neighboring country. And it's relatively forming near the delta of the river Ganga. And whenever there's high tides, half of the forest is submerged in water. Whenever there's low tides, as you can see in the picture, that's how it is. And there's a lot of mangrove trees that are present in this forest. So this is an outline of how forests are in our country. This slide is very important. How is forest important to us? We think that forest is just important to us because of wood or the timber that it gives, or it helps in maybe producing oxygen and rainfall. Not what more than that, nothing more than that. But still, we should understand that forests have a lot of benefits more than timber. Yes, we can start off with timber for furniture and raisins and gums for medicinal purpose. So we have the pictures of this timber and raisins and gums, which these raisins and gums are actually very good in medicinal purpose of and has a lot of healing properties for difficult and complex disorders and uh, health problems also. Forest also helps in the fertility of soil, reduce soil erosion, checks floods. So if forest is able to develop and nurture and increase the quality and nutrient content of the soil, it will automatically improve fertility, it will reduce soil erosion and if it will check if there's a flood, and it will reduce the flood also. It gives a natural habitat for wildlife, plays a huge role in wildlife. So yeah, a home for wildlife. We can never imagine wildlife roaming around in a city. Can tigers and lions roam around in a city? No. Can wild animals roam around in a city? No. So forest or jungles are the home for wildlife. So without these forests, wildlife don't have a home. So we have to understand that forest or wild or jungle is something which is new or something which we don't relate to every single day. We go there once in a while, but for many other animals it's their home, it's where they live, and it's where they belong. So that is something that we need to take very seriously. It produces life-giving oxygen in abundance, controls global warming, and that's the atmospheric benefits of forests. And also it's the primary food producers, and they are in abundance. So fundamentally, if there's no carnivorous animals, for all the herbivorous animals and for all the human beings, we depend on plants, and plants are abundantly found in forests, and they are the primary food producers. They produce food as the primary in the primary position along the food chain. Recreational activities and places like wildlife sanctuaries, national parks, biosphere reserves to protect plant species, animal species, and habitats are all existing only because of forests. So there are a lot of benefits for forests in the environment, in the atmosphere, for people, for animals, for soil, for pollution and erosion, for the medicinal purpose, for timber, furniture. So many uses for forests are there. Okay, moving on to the forests found in India. As we discussed in the first slide, there are five major forest types. We'll be discussing one after the other in detail. Number one, you can have tropical evergreen forest, the picture in the top left. Number two is tropical deciduous forest, the picture in the top right. Number three is tropical thorn forest or desert forest, the picture in the bottom left. Number four is littoral, tidal, or swampy. All the three are right. You can either say tidal, you can either say littoral or swampy forest, the picture at the bottom. And number five, montane forest or mountain forest, which is the picture at the bottom right. So how do we remember each vegetation type? When we look at each vegetation, even if you go through your textbooks, you can understand that each vegetation has so many characteristics to remember. So you can easily remember these vegetation type. Don't get confused. Don't have a lot of question marks in your mind. How to remember it? The best way to have it and the best way to remember is by classifying it. If you are able to classify it like this: 1. Appearance. How does the forest appear to be? Number 2. Climate. What is the rainfall, temperature, and humidity of that particular forest? Number 3. Distribution. Where is that forest located in India? Number 4. Unique characteristics. Is there anything special that's only seen in that forest or that's only particularly found in that forest? And the last one, common trees. What are the trees that are easily spotted here or easily found here, which is not found in other places? So appearance, climate, distribution, characteristics, unique or special characteristics, and common trees. You can note down these words, which are very important, because when you go through any type of forest, you don't have to remember, oh, what will I remember, what should I write? Remember these 5 words: appearance, climate, distribution, unique characteristics, and common trees. ACDUC. You just remember it, you'll be able to write these 5 points of every forest type, and that's more than enough. You've covered the whole forest. So we'll be learning about each and every forest type based on these exact 5 points that I told you, so that you will be able to relate to it. Number 1, tropical evergreen. So we started off with appearance. These forests are lush green, very bright green throughout the year, indicating that there's abundance of rainfall. If there's no abundance of rainfall, it can't be green or very bright lush green throughout the year. So it tells that it indicates that it receives an abundance of rainfall throughout the year. Does it receive? Let's take a look. Climate: 250 centimeter of rainfall or greater than 250 centimeter of rainfall throughout the year. There's a lot of water vapor present in that place. You can see that humidity is more than 77 percentage. We learned humidity last year. What is humidity? The amount of water vapor present in the air. So if you take 100 grams, 77 grams of air, for every 100 grams of air, there is 77 grams of water droplets also. So there's a lot of water vapor present in a tropical evergreen forest, and the temperature is relatively moderate to high, 25 to 27 degrees, because when there's high temperature, moderate to high temperature, there's more evaporation and more rainfall also. Distribution: mostly it's distributed along rainfall prone regions like Western Ghats, Kerala, Karnataka, and northeastern hills of Meghalaya. So we'll be learning about the distribution separately in the next slide. But still, where do we get most rainfall? In Kerala and Karnataka, because there's the Western Ghats, and also in the northeastern hills where you have Meghalaya. Okay, unique characteristics. These forests have a multi-layered structure that prevents sunlight from entering the forest floor. In your textbook, I haven't explained this a little detailedly, but still, if you look into your textbook, you'll understand that there are 4 layers. You have the forest floor at the bottom, then you have the understory, then you have the canopy, then you have the topmost layer or the covering layer from above. So all these 4 layers are there in your textbook at different altitudes and different heights, because there are different kinds of layers. When the sunlight is penetrating through one layer, it will hit the other layer and get stuck. When it's penetrating through the second layer, it hit the other layer and gets stuck. So that is why it gets stuck. Beyond a particular layer it won't go, and this prevents a lot of light entering the forest floor. So most of the animals living here, if it's monkeys and snakes, they mostly are arboreal animals, which means they live on the trees rather than living on the soil. Common trees like rosewood, mahogany, and ebony are seen. Just like how I mentioned about distribution, you can look at the map. This is the same map given in your textbook. It's mostly distributed along the rainfall prone regions. So we again and again mention that evergreen forests are green throughout the year because of abundance of rainfall, and it's present in regions where there's more rainfall. Western Ghats, Kerala, Karnataka, northeastern hills, Meghalaya, so much of rainfall you get. That is why these regions have evergreen forest. This is due to the strong influence of southwest monsoon winds, and also because these regions are on the windward side of mountain ranges. So you would have learned that in the last year also: windward, leeward. On a mountain range, the side which gets the wind is windward, the side which is dry behind the mountain, which does not get the wind, is leeward. So most of these regions are actually on the windward side of a mountain range, and that is why they get more rain. What about tropical deciduous? These forests have trees in stands or rows, not clustered. We just now saw the picture of tropical evergreen from above, and you found out that there are different kinds of trees at different heights and different shapes, and it's all clustered. But here, every tree is probably the same height, every tree is probably the same shape, every tree is probably the same size, and it is actually in stands. It is not clustered, and the tree trunks are much more thinner, while evergreen forest had bulkier, broader tree trunks. This is much more thinner. So rainfall, you won't get as much of rainfall as evergreen, because evergreen gets more rainfall. They have more greener leaves and broader trunks. So here the rainfall is little bit less. Humidity is also a little bit less, 60 to 80. While the climate also has a temperature of 27 degrees. So here the temperature is a little bit higher than evergreen. So why is that? The reason behind the temperature being higher is because most of the deciduous forests are falling on the other side, or not on the side where the rainfall you get, on the other side or the leeward side of mountain ranges, mostly in the central part of India, where you have the peninsular plateau. And also there, usually because it's a little bit away from the ocean, continental type of climate is observed. And when you are closer to the ocean, there is a relatively moderate type of climate, where even if it gets hotter during the day, it will get colder during the night. But when you are away from the ocean, mostly because peninsular plateau of Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, all these places are a little bit away from the ocean. Maybe Odisha is closer, but Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh are, most of the parts in those states are away from the ocean, and that is why they have higher temperature. These trees shed their leaves. That is the most unique characteristic. They shed their leaves. Evergreen forests do not shed their leaves, but these forests shed their leaves. You can look at the picture at the bottom. There's no leaves at all. It's like the autumn season in India, mostly we can see experienced in the deciduous forest. Deciduous, the word means shedding of leaves. It comes from a Greek or Latin term which means decidere, which means shedding of leaves. So deciduous forests are the forest which sheds leaves. These trees shed their leaves during summer and autumn to manage the lack of water. So here we know that there's a little bit lesser rainfall, there's more temperature also. So there's a lack of water all the time, or most of the time. To manage it, the trees shed their leaves, because leaves are the ones which need to have more water for producing food. So if they shed their leaves, they can manage with less water also. So that is why they shed their leaves. So this is the outlook of tropical deciduous forest. What about the distribution? Just as I said, it's not found along the coast. Mostly it's found in the central parts of India. Some places only it's found in the coast. Mostly found along the central parts of India and Peninsula Plateau, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and Odisha. These regions receive the remaining leftover showers or rainfall of southwest monsoon, and also the retreating northeast monsoon. So not the major chunk of rainfall, the remaining rainfall after it hits the Western Ghats, there will be something remaining which will be, which will be, these winds, rainfall winds will be blowing over the central parts. These remaining part only will be giving showers and water to these. The third one, tropical desert or thorn forest, extremely arid appearance or dry appearance with narrow, thin, very thin branched. It's so it's so thin that you can even break the branch with your hands, the branches of the tree. So it's that thin, and it's mostly shrubs. It's not huge trees. You cannot find huge trees here. So the best way to understand it, wherever you have more rainfall, you have bigger, greener leaved, bulkier trunked trees. Wherever you have less rainfall, the more lesser rainfall you have, the more drier climate you have, the tree trunks started becoming thinner. Now it has become too narrow, and the leaves start to shed. Now there is no leaves at all, and the height of the trees become lesser. Now the height has come very less, to the point where it is just shrubs. So it all is directly connected to the water. More water in evergreen, average amount of water and rainfall and dryness in deciduous, very less water and total dryness in thorn forest. So it goes from high to medium to low. Climate, dry climate greater than 35 degrees centigrade or even 40 degrees centigrade during summer times, less than 70 or even 50 centimeter of annual rainfall. In a year, there's less than 70 centimeter of rainfall, which is very less. And this low humidity, very low water vapor. So the percentage of water vapor will be 50 percentage or 40 percentage water vapor humidity would be there. So that's mainly due to the lack of evaporation and lack of rainfall. So because of all these reasons, and this region has thorn forest. And where do we find thorn forest? Mostly found in Rajasthan. And when we think about Rajasthan, let us not think about the whole part of Rajasthan. The western side of Rajasthan, which has the Thar desert, and also some parts of the Western Ghats, not the western side of Western Ghats which receive rainfall, but the eastern side of Western Ghats which does not receive rainfall, closer to Maharashtra, the central part of India. Along that region, also where you have the Deccan Plateau, there are some patches where there is very, very, very less rainfall, and hence the rain shadow zone creates a desert-like environment or a thorn forest. What are the unique characteristics? It's very easy. Here the unique characteristics is that you find xerophytic plants. What are xerophytic plants? The plants which have spines instead of leaves. So these spines prevent animals from consuming the plant. An animal will not come and bite or eat a trunk or a branch of a stem of a plant if it has spines, if it has thorns, because it will hurt the animal. So xerophytic plants convert their leaves to spines as they are seen here to survive harsh climate or arid climate. These spines are to protect the trees from animals. You can see from this picture that the spines of trees are mostly to prevent transpiration, reduce the amount of transpiration from leaves, and also to protect from animals who are eating it. Babool, neem, khair are the three common types of trees which are found in the thorn forest region. Looking into the distribution, you can see the northwest region of Rajasthan, rain shadow zones of Western Ghats of Maharashtra, two major regions which receive less rainfall, and hence there is a thorn forest. These regions fall on the leeward side of mountain ranges. In case of Maharashtra, where there is a reason, which is the reason where they receive less rainfall. But it can also be if the region is parallel to the mountain range. For example, there's a famous mountain range in India which is called Aravalli mountain range in Rajasthan. If you just go through the physical map of India, you'll be able to find out. This Aravalli mountain range is actually parallel to the southwest monsoon. The southwest monsoon, when you'll be learning about maps, you'll be learning the arrow marks of the southwest monsoon. From the southwest direction, it is blowing towards India, and the mountain ranges are also in the southwest direction. So it is not hitting the mountains and forming rain, it is just blowing alongside. So if it is on the leeward side, no rainfall, thorn forest might occur. If it is parallel to the mountain range, the monsoon winds do not shed rain and no rainfall, thorn forest might occur. These are the two major reasons thorn forest might occur in a place. What about the fourth one, tidal, littoral, and swampy forest? As I said earlier, you can call it in either of the three terms. You can call it tidal, you can call it littoral, or a swampy forest. But best, it's known as a tidal forest. Swampy forests are always half filled with water and has a lot of clay soil which doesn't allow water to seep in. These trees grow here in water and grow together as bunches. So it has a climate of 28 to 32 degrees, heavy rainfall because it is always half filled with water above 200 centimeter, and there's a relatively good amount of humidity also. Distribution. This is a very important point. Delta regions where rivers meets the ocean. Deltas of Ganga, Mahanadi, Krishna, Godavari along the eastern coast, connecting states of West Bengal, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana. All these places you will see rivers forming a delta because most of the rivers in India move from the west towards the east. So along the eastern margin of India's coast, you will see many rivers touching the ocean, and all along these river deltas, you will have a littoral forest. The biggest and famous one is found in the Ganga Delta, which is the picture taken from above. You can see the image taken from above where the dark green portions which are closer to the ocean, that is the mangrove forest, that is the tidal forest. The light green portions away, that's not a tidal forest, that's just habitable land. So these dark green portions closer to the ocean where there's tidal forest is because it's forming near deltas. These are river distributaries touching the ocean, and the delta regions are forming these tidal forest. Trees are known for its stilt roots. These are unique characteristics here. So you can see that the roots grow out of the, usually roots go into the soil. Here roots come out of the tree outwardly, coming out as branches. These are roots of the tree. These roots are known as stilt roots, grows on the stem. This is to hold the tree firmly in clay soil during tidal changes. We know that this is called tidal forest. So sometimes there may be high tides, sometimes there might be low tides. When water levels increases and decreases, the tree must not get uprooted. So it needs a good hold. So for that, trees have roots going outward, out of the soil. That's why it's called stilt roots. That's a unique characteristic here. Common trees, Sundari, Kiora, and screw pine. Sundari is very easy to remember because there's a famous forest which we already discussed in the first slide in West Bengal, which is a mangrove forest or a tidal forest, and the name was, I hope you remember, the name was Sundarbans. Sundarbans got its name from the tree Sundari. So you can easily remember the common tree here, Sundari, because world famous tidal forest in India, mangrove forest in India, as a UNESCO World Heritage Site is called Sundarbans. I think everybody should know Sundarbans because it's world famous. India, everybody in India knows Sundarbans, and Sundari tree is actually related to Sundarbans. So Sundar tree is actually related to Sundarbans, and that is why it is one of the most common tree found here. Moving into tidal forest, the regions found in tidal forest. So you can find out that the regions, as I told earlier, delta regions where rivers meets the ocean, deltas of Ganga, the top near West Bengal. Then you have Krishna, the next patch near the word Bay of Bengal. You have another patch which is shaded. Then Godavari, the lowest part, all along the eastern coast of West Bengal, Odisha, Telangana, and Andhra Pradesh. This is why forests are pocketed along the deltas of these main rivers. Moving into the last one, mountain forest is seen along high mountain ranges. You can see this high mountain ranges. In this, there's two important terms that you should know. One is snow line, the other one is tree line. Snow line is the limit or the imaginary line which you can see, not imaginary, even it's a visual line which you can see till the snowfall occurs. Below that, there will not be any snowfall. So above a particular line in a mountain, you will find snowfall. That line which separates the region where there is no snowfall and the beginning of snowfall is called snow line. When summer season happens, snow line goes above and above and above because of more melting. When winter season happens, snow line comes below and below and below because of more freezing. Tree line is also an important term which you should know. There is a particular limit to which trees can grow. Beyond that particular limit, because of harsh climate, trees, even though there's soil, trees cannot grow there. So the maximum limit till which trees can grow because of the environment is called tree line. So tree line and snow line are two important terms that you need to remember, which I've just explained now. Seen along high mountain ranges as conical trees, cold climate temperatures, mostly less than 18 degrees centigrade, rainfall 150 to 200 centimeters. This rainfall can be varied. It can be rainfall or snowfall also. So we are just gonna tell it as precipitation, and we know precipitation can occur in liquid form and also in solid form. So if it occurs in solid form, you can call it snow. So if snowfall occurs also, it can should be considered as precipitation. So now I'm writing 150 to 200 centimeter of rainfall, but it can be less than that rainfall, but more snowfall also. But temperature is 18 degrees centigrade and much lesser than that. Mostly seen along the mountainous Himalayan region of India, Kashmir, Ladakh, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, all these northern states, northeastern states, along with other countries which is crossing by Bhutan, Nepal, has montane forests. Unique characteristics, very important unique characteristic here is that there are needle-shaped leaves. You can see that needle-shaped leaves in the first picture in the bottom left. Then the shape of the tree is also different. It's triangular, it's conical. This is mainly to prevent the tree from being damaged when there is snowfall. In the picture on the bottom right, you can see that conical trees are there and normal branch trees are also there. The normal branch trees are fully covered with snow because it is in such a way that it cannot hold on anymore. But the conical branch trees, you can actually see the little bit green part. It's because the snow slides down because of the triangular shape. So the conical branch trees and the needle-shaped leaves are unique characteristics of the mountain forest, which is not found anywhere else. Pine tree, cedar, fir, spruce, larch, maple, all these are examples of mountain forest trees. Just like we told earlier, Distribution mostly seen along mountainous Himalayan region of India, Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh. Mountain forests extend in the same direction as Himalayas. You can see that Himalayas would extend in the same arch or arc shaped from north to northeast. This mountain forest also extends in the same northern arc region. So remember to shade the regions correctly. The last topic, forest conservation. Due to the increase in population, forest cover is rapidly reducing. So protecting and developing the few forests that remain is highly required. This in short is called forest conservation. So we know that population is increasing. When population increases, we cut down trees, we go to place, we make it urbanized, and that reduces the forest cover so much. And that is why we need to conserve forest. We need to plant more trees. So this in short is forest conservation. Almost 20% of India's geographical extent is forest. So you take the whole of India, 80% is not forest, the remaining 20% is forest. As of now, it's been classified into three categories. And number one is reserved forest, which is controlled by the government. Number two is protected forest, which is controlled from hunting and poaching. And number three is unclassified forest, maybe any forest that you would have walked into or you would have gone just for tourism, or just nearby your house you find there's a small jungle like thing. That's all that are unclassified forest which is available for public use. So reserved and protected forest, we are trying to increase the percentage of reserved and protected forest by planting more trees. Unclassified forest also, reducing the cutting down of trees in those regions are also important because government is not taking any initiative in that. So this in short is forest conservation. You can look at this map. All the green patches is moderate dense forest. Wherever you see dark black regions, it's very dense forest. Yellow patches are open forest. Red patches are shrubs. And the white regions, which is 80% of India, is non-forest. There's no forest over there. What is the outcome of forest conservation? What is the use? Why do we have to do it? Maintaining environmental stability of flora and fauna. You cut down forest, as I told earlier, many plants and animals, mainly animals, don't have a home. Forest is their home. It's almost like building, crashing down the building or the home where you're living and expecting you to live. We can't live. The same way, cutting down forest is equally telling you don't have a home anymore to animals. It's equal to telling like that. So it's creating an environmental stability for plants and animals, checking soil erosion, reducing mass wasting, checking the extension of sand dunes in arid areas. Sand dunes development or increase in sand dunes is also a way in which earth is telling that there's less forest, there's less rainfall. That is why more arid areas are forming, more sand dunes are forming. So yes, checking extension of sand dunes and arid areas, increasing checking of forest cover due to through afforestation and social forestry programs. Through afforestation is uh, where there was no forest at all, planting trees, that is afforestation. Another term, reforestation, is planting trees in a place where earlier there was a forest and it was cut down. So you should differentiate those two terms. Afforestation is planting trees where there is no forest at all. Reforestation is planting trees where there was a forest and then it was cut down. Meet the fuel, food and fodder. Your fuel, food and fodder. Fuel for cutting down trees and using the wood for fire. Food, taking the food materials from plants. Fodder, the dry leaves or grass for the cattle to graze. All these are tribal people's major needs: fuel, food, and fodder. And all these three basics needs are met by forests. And the forest produce meets all these requirements of tribal people. So that's also an outcome of forest conservation. Increase productivity of forest to meet the nation's needs. We have major needs like timber needs are there. At the same time, we have medicinal needs. At the same time, we have other needs of controlling soil erosion and construction of dams and things like that. So there are many different areas of needs the nation has to fulfill, and forests are an important role in that. Encouraging efficient and smart utilization of forest produce and not overuse. So making sure that we don't overuse timber. For example, in a country like Canada, the country's major benefit and the major income comes from lumbering, which is cutting down coniferous trees. But at the same time, the country is not a barren land. The country, even though they cut down trees, they plant 10 trees for every one tree they cut down. They still have so much trees. So if we are also able to do the same for timber or for any other purpose, whenever we cut down trees, if we are able to plant 10 or 15 trees, we are not gonna have the same problem. We are gonna live in a better environment. So overusing is bad, smart utilization is good. Create awareness to reduce existing pressure on remaining forest. The existing pressure on remaining forest increases only when we don't plant more trees and create an environment. Okay, this is a video which I want everybody to watch very carefully, because just like in the last class soil erosion we learned about Jadav Payang, a man from Assam. This is a Rajasthani village. So when we think about Rajasthan, desert comes to your mind, but this is a village the world needs to know. A small girl child died in that village because of dehydration and because of other environmental issues. So the chief panchayat person in that village took the initiative to plant trees for every girl child. So in our country, for example, in a country like India, a girl child is a problem, considered as a problem. Environmental issues are considered as a problem. These two things are two areas where India is trying to change and India is not able to change. Every home, obviously most of the homes, a boy child is treated better way than a girl child, and job opportunities or crimes against women are more. In every way girl child feels less valued in our country. But here in the same country of India, in a narrow, um, not much developed village in a state like Rajasthan, there's something amazing that's happening where a girl child is valued so much. At the same time, planting trees is valued so much. Two areas where India is failing, this village is succeeding. So just take a look.
इस पौधे को भी मेरी माँ ने लगाया, मेरे पिताजी ने लगाया और मुझे भी जन्म मेरे माता पिता ने दिया है। इस नाते ये पेड़ मेरा भाई है और मेरे भाई को किसी भी कीमत पर मैं नुकसान नहीं पहुंचाने दूंगी और वो भाई सदियों सदियों तक उन बच्चियों की, बेटियों की याद दिलाता रहेगा। ये पिपलांतरी का काम है।
When we think of Rajasthan, we get an image of endless desert with camels. I was fortunate enough to see vegetation in the midst of this so-called wasteland, which comes alive with trees, water and daughters. Come to Piplantri, where trees are sons and brothers. Piplantri is a small village with a population of around 6,000 people in the district of Rajsamand in Rajasthan, India. It has gained immense global attention in the past decade for its successful practice of ecofeminism. In a country that still favors the birth of a son, Piplantri village not only embraces daughters but also has created a tradition that benefits the village and its environment. This is the story of one man's mission in a village to save Piplantri's daughters and its nature. Rewind to the year of 2005. Piplantri and a few surrounding villages fell prey to deforestation due to marble mining.
के आसपास के एरिया में बहुत बड़े स्तर पर सफ़ेद संगमरमर की का खनन कार्य होता है और जहाँ पर माइनिंग का कार्य होता है वहाँ पर अब निश्चित तौर पर बहुत बड़ा नुकसान होता है और वो यहाँ भी हुआ है।
The marble mining had several adverse effects such as decreasing water levels, habitat destruction, water scarcity and landscape destruction. While mining caused destruction to nature, the society was ridden by female infanticide, feticide, dowry and gender discrimination. When Mr. Sham Sundar Paliwal was elected as the Sarpanch or the head of the village in 2006, he had plenty of problems to solve. During his tenure of 5 years and even after that, he has worked hard with the help and support of the villagers to build a sustainable, eco-friendly model village. They have worked towards building a sustainable society where equal importance is given to the upbringing of the girls born in the village while reducing the water scarcity and executing afforestation, rainwater harvesting and free education.
जहाँ पे सबसे बड़ी बात है लड़कियों को गर्ल्स एजुकेशन के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा उनको योगदान दिया जाता है, उनको पार्टिसिपेट किया जाता है।
After his daughter's death around the year of 2006, he came up with innovative schemes fully utilizing the government's funds and projects. In the memory of his daughter, Paliwal started an initiative of planting 111 trees when a girl child is born.
हर बेटी के नाम पर 111 पौधे इस ग्राम पंचायत में जितनी भी लड़कियों का साल भर में जन्म होगा उन सभी बच्चियों के नाम पर हम बारिश में वृक्षारोपण करेंगे और 111 पौधे लगाएंगे और गांव वालों से एक एफिडेविट लेंगे कि मेरे परिवार में कोई भी व्यक्ति भ्रूण हत्या नहीं करेगा, मेरे परिवार में कोई भी व्यक्ति बाल विवाह नहीं करेगा, बेटी को शिक्षा से वंचित नहीं रखेगा बेटी के नाम पर गांव वाले पैसा इकट्ठा करके बेटी के नाम पर 31,000 रुपये की एफडी 18 साल तक होने तक लेकर ये काम पिपलान 3 के लोगों ने किया है।
Panchayat at your doorstep, Swajal Dhara Yojana and Kiran Nidhi Yojana are some of the most popular schemes that he has introduced. The union government acknowledged the efforts of the villagers within Nirmal Gram Award. In 2007, for his rigorous efforts and far-sighted vision, Mr. Shyam Sundar Paliwal was honored with the President's Award. The Piplanti model is now being followed by many panchayat across the country. With determination and dedication, people have made Piplanti an oasis of hope, inspiring other villages to tread the sustainable path.
आज पिपलान 3 एक विचारधारा बन गया है पूरे विश्व समुदाय के सामने। और पिपलान 3 में जो वृक्षारोपण हुआ है, जल संरक्षण का काम हुआ है, सरकार की योजनाओं से काम हुआ है, ये अद्भुत कार्य है। आज पिपलान 3 का नारा है बेटी, पानी, पेड़, गोचर भूमि, वन्य जीवों को बचाकर लोगों को प्राकृतिक आधारित रोजगार उपलब्ध कराना, ये पिपलान 3 है।
I don't know how many of you were touched by that video, but I certainly was, and that's why I put it in this class, because every time we learn something new, I think something that emotionally touches us is what's more important than gaining an understanding of the subject. So uh, if it has initiated a change in you to plant trees for a good cause, please continue to do that, because that's the ultimate aim of learning this chapter. So you can understand that when something like a tragedy hits a person's life, it can either be in a good way, or it can either transform it in a bad way. And he took it in a good way to plant 111 trees for every girl child that's been born in that society or village. And now you can look how much environmental friendly that place has become, and not just for environment but also for empowering women, how much he has taken. So two areas where our country is really struggling, this small village in Rajasthan which has very less water is still creating a great success. So yeah, I hope you were able to get a lot of information and a lot of understanding from that video. Moving on, we'll just go through one or two more slides and we'll end it. So that Piplantri model is actually one of India's greatest um, forest conservation acts, which not many people know. Even in a book it's not there. If you go through in the net, you will probably get a little bit information. And that person who just initiated it, I forgot his name, but he also is not highly recognized. So yeah, people like him need to be known, need to be awarded, need to be applauded also. But we'll continue to move on about the topics which are in your textbook. Agroforestry, social forestry are two major terms. I'll go in detail about agroforestry, but I'll be going a little bit lesser in social forestry. Agroforestry is the management of the integration of trees, crops, and livestock in the same plot of land. So in the same plot of land, if you are able to cultivate trees, which is a forest, small forest, and then crops like agriculture, and then also livestock like probably cattle, for example, cows. When you do it all together in the same plot of land, that is agroforestry. When you do agriculture, forestry, and cattle rearing together, that's agroforestry. This can be an integral part of productive agriculture. It may include existing native forests. So you don't have to create a forest. You can go to a native forest and then do just agriculture and cattle rearing also. Benefits can control runoff, soil erosion, can maintain soil organic matter, improve fertility, can lead to reduced insecticides or insect pests and associated diseases. Nitrogen fixing trees, certain trees which are good in fixing nitrogen in the soil, shrubs which are good in doing that can sustainably increase the nitrogen inputs in the agroforestry systems, reduce waterlogging and salinity of the water content present in the soil. But there are drawbacks or negatives too. What are the negatives? Suppose if you have to go to a place and you have to start from scratch, building up or generating a forest, growing a forest takes a huge amount of time. So maybe crops will take less amount of time, cattle rearing will happen quickly, but forestry, along with that, from beginning, if you have to do it, will take so much time. So it's quite time consuming. And sometimes you grow up a forest and the crops and the forest don't go together. By the time you understand that, it would be 5 years or 6 years, and then you have to change, you'll lose a lot of money. If you don't do it the right way, it's good. Agroforestry is not good. It's not, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's, if you don't do it the right way, with proper help and proper direction, you may be losing a lot of money by the end of it. So it may not be value for money if, it's a very big if you do it the wrong way. If you do it the right way, if you have a forest ready, a small forest cover, just agriculture and livestock together, then it's going to be a big benefit. But if you do it in the wrong way, it's going to cost a lot of loss of money. Other initiatives, so these are the two which are left in today's chapter, and we'll be just moving into the right first, which is social forestry. This is management of forest, the benefit of local communities. So here we do forest management, forest protection, afforestation, reforestation. Just like I told, afforestation is planting trees where there was no forest before. It was a total barren land. But reforestation is planting trees where there was a forest before, but it has been cut down. And it improves the rural, environmental, and social development. People come to work together. That is social improvement. And the environment becomes more healthy. That is environmental development. Rural people have a better standard of living. That is rural development. So all these development are the focus of social forestry. Agroforestry, agriculture, crops, cattle, forest, doing it all together for the benefit of farmers. That is agroforestry. Here you are developing the people, rural development is taking place, environmental development is taking place. For example, female women come forward and start to initiate all this. So women empowerment takes place, social development takes place, everything taking place to improve human beings, to improve the rural people with the help of forest. So that is why it is called social forestry. The society is being improved. Okay. Last one is on the left, which is Chipko movement, which is very famous. You would have already learned about it, heard about it, but you need to know one more time. The non-violent agitation in 1973 that was aimed for protection and conservation of trees. It was done by hugging trees as individuals or groups, or you can see in the picture, it was done many years ago in 1973. And this also brought about a collective mobilization of women in case of preserving forests. So it also brought about a change in attitude that women can do certain things. Women are empowered. We know that even today, empowerment of women is really on the rise, but still women who are struggling to fight for something are put down. You can see this happened 1973. So almost 37 years ago. Oh, sorry, 47 years ago. Yes, 47 years ago it happened, and that is so many years ago. Imagine if today this is the situation of women 47 years ago, how much bad it would have been. But still, women were able to create a good attitude that they were able to stand up for something in the society. That improved their status, they improved that they are able to fight up for something, and also it prevented the cutting down of trees. So these are other initiatives like Chipko movement and social forestry. Social forestry is also given in a little bit of detail, just like agroforestry, about the benefits of it, the drawbacks of it, the ways it has been done. You can just take a read about that in your textbook, and if you have any doubts, you can clarify in the next class. So that's whole chapter about the forest, about vegetation. We learned about the types, we learned about conservation methods, we learned about the uses and importance of forest as well. So I hope you were able to understand this forest chapter. See you in the next class.